So today I want to talk about a subject that interests me in the strangest way possible. And I had the idea to talk about this for a little while because of something that happened to me the other day. I was messaging Alamis and we were, kind of bullshitting around, joking off. And joking off, not, yeah. Shut up. So we were joking around. And I said something along the lines of, James something 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 because Dragon is Aniki. And I thought about the use of this word for a minute before I used it because I knew that Alamis was probably not going to know what it meant. However, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it was really the only word I could use that would properly say what I wanted to say, what kind of relationship I wanted to describe that James and Dragon have. So I used it. And then, of course, she, asked me, what does it mean? And I had to explain it to her. And that just got me thinking about how fascinating it is when there's these words that even if they have a translation, they don't have a really direct translation, or they mean a lot more than what that translation ends up being. And more so than anything, this happens to me. I know about more Japanese words and internet speak more than other languages. And I know there's a lot of these words, but I'm not aware of most of them because I'm not any kind of linguist or anything. This is just my observations of the world, being a writer and stuff. The only other language I might have the aptitude to talk about is Latin, but I'm not familiar with it in a way that would allow me to figure out specific connotations like I am with Japanese. To be fair, I don't know a word of Japanese. I mean, I know a couple words. I cannot speak Japanese, but I know a lot about some of the words and some of the contexts they're used in because of how much fucking anime I used to watch. And I still watch anime, just not as frequently as I did when I was about 14 to 17. I watched a lot of anime. So now, of course, some of you are probably wondering, well, what does Aniki mean? And correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I've gathered the word means from my observations of anime, from me not actually knowing that much Japanese. So Mizutoka may murder me. But essentially, Aniki directly translates to big bro or big brother. Usually people translate it as big bro. And it's a word that's often used by people who are in gangs or are, kind of cool people, hey, Aniki, shit like that. You're not going to see a girl or a guy in your typical Japanese family call their big brother Aniki. That's not really how it works. That's mostly because Aniki doesn't actually mean big brother or big bro in a familial sense. It can be. It can be if you have, that kind of relationship with your actual brother. But a lot of the times it seems to have a more connotation of someone you respect and look up to as a big brother type of character. It has these weird connotations of almost idolization and hero worship behind it. So in the Monokuma Mondays, playthrough that Dragon and I are doing, I call Mondo's big brother Aniki, jokingly, because that's kind of what it means. If you want a really good example of that one word and the connotations thereof, I got my definition of Aniki from Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. If you haven't seen that show, you should probably watch it, because it's really good. Is really good. Holy shit snacks, it is really good. And this is from someone who's not a huge fan of mecha usually, and I fucking love that shit. So yeah, watch Gurren Lagann. But I think it's really funny how there are certain words like that where you need the proper kind of just exposure to the word to understand what it means. And Gurren Lagann was that for Aniki for me. But there's so many other words, and especially with Japanese honorifics that have these specific connotations, the difference between Oni-chan and Oni-san. It's gotten this reputation on the internet of being the word you use when you're into your big brother. You know, Oni-chan, oh, what are we going to do on the bed? You know, like fucking, you know, pomp. Like, and I don't think that word has the same connotation in Japan, just because it's come to mean that so heavily over here in the West, because oftentimes our only exposure to Japanese culture is anime. And in anime, there's of course that, you know, trope of the little sister liking her big brother, her Aniki, if you will. Actually, usually that's more of a masculine thing, so it's probably not the correct way to use that. It would be Oni-chan. Oni-chan! And you notice that most siblings who don't have that connotation in anime use Oni-san or One-san if it's a sister. And it's really funny trying to explain these things to people who don't know. Like when I sit down and try to explain to my mom the difference between san and chan and kun when it comes up, and senpai, like it's impossible. It's impossible. She doesn't understand because she hasn't been a part of that culture yet. And oh yeah, I was going to talk about senpai too. I was going to talk about senpai, the word senpai, because many of the bickering that Dragon and I have done have been over this word senpai, because technically I'm his senpai. I am about a semester to 2 semesters ahead of him as far as school is concerned. So technically I am his senpai. Fuck you, Dragon. But he still insists that he is senpai as fuck. Which, again, just goes to show how the connotations become different. Because the way he's using the word senpai is incredibly different than the way I'm using the word senpai. Because he means it as a power thing, as in, you know, I'm a senpai. No, you're not. Fuck you. But it just amuses me. It amuses me how these words can have such meanings, and how, like, even the Edie Valley server, which if you are not part of the Discord server yet, why aren't you? Why aren't you? Just go join it. Just go. They're really cool people. They don't bite, I swear. Okay, well, maybe they do a little. Just watch out for Leroy, but you know, just they're cool people. Even the Edie Valley server, which is actually surprisingly tame on the leet speak a lot, probably would not make any sense to my mother if she tried to follow along with the chat, which she has never tried to do. My mother is technically on the server. If you look at the people list, Hedgehog's mom is there, and that is her. She did join the Discord server, but she's never been on it because she has no way of knowing what the hell anyone is talking about. And, you know, it's that way with meme culture as well. Like the fact that you can put up that image of the guy with the pigeon, or the guy with the butterfly asking if it's a pigeon. And you can like combined memes together, and it becomes Egyptian hieroglyphics, essentially. Like we've all just kind of like agreed that this is the meaning of these words. And it's so weird. And I don't really know where I'm going with this or why I'm talking about this, but I thought it was interesting. And I wanted to talk about it. So there you go. It's really weird. It's really cool. Send me more words that have obscure meanings or different connotations depending on where they are, because I like thinking about that shit. So yeah. Thanks everybody for listening to me ramble for 10 minutes. Bye-bye.